we're back. We are sticking with that panfish area. I'm going to use that, continue to use that scrap piece of tubalo. That if you watch that popper video, if you haven't, check it out. Going to continue to use that small piece of scrap tupelo to bring in the Husky jerk. We're going to do it just about 2 inches. I think these lures have always been pretty cool, pretty lifelike swimming action. I have not made one myself, so this will be a new challenge today. So here we go, 2-inch Husky jerk. All right, went ahead and cut the lip slot out early since this is pretty even flat wood. That protects the fact that we know that the lip slot will be roughly straight on both sides. Now I'm just going to use the belt sander to clean up the edges before I get into the joint. We'll play around with the width here. We'll probably cut it to half of this size before I start trimming it down. So there we go. We got the general profile out and put together. It's pretty small. I will do 2 things before I get into cutting any joints of any sort of kind. I want to taper the front part just to kind of give it that minnow head looking, and then I'm going to taper the tail prior. So I would just draw a couple little chamfer lines for me to follow with the belt sander. I'll use the belt sander because it's quick, and then I'm going to hand sand everything after that just to kind of get the general shape. But as you can see, pretty good start so far. I drew a bunch of lines, random stuff, just so I know exactly kind of what I'm doing and where I wanted things to look. This was the old min line of what was left, but moving along pretty good. So. I've got the general shape carved out. I've put these 2 lines. That's kind of my meat zone. That's where I want that joint to be. It doesn't have to, for me, it doesn't have to be super exact, but if I can get that joint cut in between there once I get this shaped out, then I'll be pretty happy. But next, we're just gonna vise this up, hand sand it with some 120 grit, small pieces, that we can really get that good Husky jerk shape. All right, I'm going to take the thin side of these blades. There's a little thinner diameter on these bear saw. Just going to create a little bit of an idea kind of where I want this joint to be. We have the shape for the most part carved it out, and I'm pretty happy with it. Got a couple dots, and so we're gonna go hook hanger, line tie, lip slot obviously, and with it being a pretty small bait right now, you know, it's not going to be very big. It's going to be wider just because I'm, you know, I don't like to take too much wood off when I'm going to put a 3/8 inch cut in a Forstner bit down there. That way we can get a little bit of lead in there, but we are going to go all the way down to my Dremel tools for the drill bits, 3/64 of an inch to start with the holes. And that way we can make sure that they're pretty small, pretty tight. That's perfect. We're only going to do lead in the front now that I realize really what I want this bait to do. I want it to kind of have a little bit of a nose dive already because I'm putting the line tie above the lip, not on the lip, so the lip won't drive it down 100%, but a little bit of lead will help keep that buoyancy from being flat to a little nose dive into the water. So I think we are pretty close to being done with this part. I'm gonna cut off that joint, start sanding a little shape so it can be a little bit of a freely moving jerk bait or Husky jerk bait kind of sense. And then we'll finally get to sealing, putting some lead in and going from there. Like I mentioned before, you want to check the joint connections. I went ahead and made a quick one off camera just to make sure it was going to be in the right position. And as you can tell, this moves almost completely freely side to side, so it'll give it some super erratic action, which is good, you know. Matches up well. It's a pretty easy joint connection to make. And so I'm gonna make a couple line ties, hook hangers, and then we're gonna put some lead in the belly right there. That's where the other hook's gonna go for the front hook, back hook, and then line tie again right up in the front of the nose. So we're gonna get that done. All right, we have now tested all of the specific hook hangers and line ties and everything looks good. So I am going to next fill this cavity with some of those little pieces of lead that I showed you in my last video, or the popper, which I can link above, which is a pretty unique thing, since even a hot piece of from a lead plate or lead pot might cover too much of that, so I don't want to have to worry about that. So little pieces of lead, glue in these adjacent things, and then I'll remove the joint and hang each one of these individually as we seal it. So let's just first go ahead and grab some of these little things of lead like I showed you, like I said in the last video, my popper. These things work really well. Bob Smith 5-minute epoxy to drive in the last hook hanger and the line tie. I'm gonna seal it off camera just because you've seen probably a bait being sealed about 1,000,000 times. So we will be back when we glue in the joint connection. Actually, you know, we're gonna be back after we paint it. Then we'll glue in the joint connection at the very end. So really see that sealant looking good. Whoop, there it is, nice and focused, nice and sharp, covered. So we are gonna get to painting. I think we're gonna do like a nice basic minnow pattern today. Like, you know, just a classic black, silver, maybe a little gold. Gonna start actually with the base coat of the Wicked Pearl Black. So we're gonna do the black first and then do the scales on top of that. All right, here's the most frustrating part about jointed swim baits, but small swim baits in general, is doing scale patterns. But what I've done and what I normally try to do to keep them all in line is, this is just a small piece of mosquito mesh. I want the small scales, but I'll just poke the line tie and the back hook hanger through to kind of keep it taut and together. And then with my fingers, I'm just going to apply enough pressure on the bottom to get that to basically be as close to the skin as I can. Wicked aluminum. Got ourselves a little bit of scale pattern, so that'll work for the most part. Making it. All right, so we're gonna put a little gill structure, go over the top with black to clean it up. Maybe a couple little tiny black fins and a shad dot, I think, just for some extra measure, but looks pretty good thus far. Keep moving. Not too bad. Not too bad. I think I'm going to come in with a little light color just to clean that piece up where you can see that gold streak by the gill, and then I will be done and get it clear coated with some eyes. I just used, these are some lure parts online. I think has just tiny sticker eyes. I mean, these are so small, but that's what we're going to use. Just some sticker eyes, because this thing is too small for me to drill. And I don't think I even have any eyes that would even go on it anyway, so just going to use an X-Acto knife to pull them off. Just going to go KBS. I think we'll dip drop them, put them on the rotisserie, and then be back in 24 hours. These are clear coated and they look pretty good. So next step, to be honest, is just simply finishing up hardware. 5-minute Bob Smith epoxy is the game. And we just need to glue in the joint connection and the lip. And we are good. All right, it is glued and ready to be used here shortly. So we got to get these hooks on there and we will hit the lake. One last dry image of it before we truly test it in the water. So we're gonna give you the in the tub look, since I don't have a GoPro at the moment, so we're gonna do this, and it works pretty well. Look at that, it's got good action, moves along really, really well, pretty lifelike, good tail flutter, and dives probably 4 to 7 feet depending on how fast you're retrieving it when you're actually out in the lake, but pretty solid action. I'm happy with it. We are here at that local lake that I live right by. I just biked down with a couple rods, and we are looking at a whole lot of algae plus the sunset. We're gonna try to catch something real quick on that jointed swim bait, and hopefully we can get that knocked out, and then we're gonna do frogging probably the rest of the night, because doesn't that look pretty juicy right back there? So stick with it, stay tuned, and we'll see if we can get into something. Well, had to go off camera. Sorry, a little open water, but I got him. First bass on the new Husky jerk. He swallowed it pretty, he just grasped this thing on both sides. He wanted it bad. All right, officially got him. Now we're frogging. Man, check out that perfect lighting. Sunset right behind me. This is a beautiful night here in Nebraska. Caught one fish on the bait, so it is official. It works. I love it. I'll show some bathtub footage in there a few minutes ago that you probably have already seen if you made it this far. That way you could see some of the action. It was low light, sun going down, so it's going to be really tough to see. Plus all the algae made it really tough to fish it at this time of the year, but went frogging for a while, had a couple blow-ups, didn't catch anything, but hey, can't beat another night on the water. So if you like this video, you made it through this far, thank you. Hit that like button below, subscribe if you haven't already, we would appreciate it, and the channel appreciates it. But I will see you on the next one.